Boom! James and the Giant Peach book review. Fun fact, I'm actually allergic to peaches, but it only happened recently, so the first 30 years of my life I was able to enjoy them, and the last 5 years, yeah, highly allergic. So I know the pain of missing one of my favorite fruits. But James, no. James, I don't think he has the same type of experiences with peaches as I do. In fact, they might be a little more traumatic for him. And speaking of, the book opens on abrupt, sudden trauma, both for James and for probably the child reading this. What is Roald Dahl doing here? Actually, I remember calling him Roald Dahl when I was a little kid because my brain just couldn't fathom the sequence of letters, and Roald was a little too hard for me. Anyway, back to James. We allegedly have a rhino eating his parents, and then his 2 evil step-aunts become his new parents. Brutal. I mean, basically, he was their slave child. Now, trust me, when he's outside chopping wood in the garden, these aren't the type of step-aunts that actually inform him not to talk to the strange, creepy old man who happens to wander in. Definitely did not have a stranger danger teaching moment. Do not accept the candy, do not get into the van. But no, young James accepts a sack of magic crystals from him. Fortunately, they weren't the Walter White and Jesse kind of crystal. This clumsy kid, of course, spills them all across the ground, and they fall onto a tree, which grows peaches. My mind really wanders here in whatever ridiculous way it can. What if the magic crystals spilled on a lawn gnome, or a gold bar, or a magnifying glass, or a rubber duck? Oh wait, no, a real duck. I'm guessing most of you weren't born under a rock, so yes, this peach grows giant. Ant Sponge and Ant Spiker go complete sellout mode and have people pay to come see this Ripley's Believe It or Not giant peach in the yard. All while making sure James, who created the spectacle, is basically starving to death. The abuse is just terrible and terrifying. One night, the tide turns. He notices a hole in the side of the peach, and being that it's massive, he decides to crawl through. A grasshopper the size of a large dog, a spider, a ladybug, a centipede, a glowworm, and an earthworm. That's what's waiting for him, and they're just casually chatting it up inside this peach. Why am I picturing the insects with aristocratic British accents? Unfortunately for James, and it turns out Ant Sponge and Ant Spiker, the bugs are planning their great escape. James is caught in the middle of it, and they roll this giant peach down a mountainside, off a cliff, and into the ocean. That escalated quickly, or should I say de-escalated? Fortunately, peaches the size of a fishing boat can float like a fishing boat, even with the human-sized bugs inside. But unlike a ship, they can actually feast on the boat itself, an idea James comes up with for them to sustain themselves on the journey. You see him growing. He's being able to embrace the unknown. He's not getting shut down by his peers or his ants all the time. He's growing more clever and coming up with ideas. He decides, in fact, to take the glowworm's silk and tie it around the earthworm against his will and throw it out to the seagulls in the ocean and use it to tie the glowworm's silk around the seagulls so they can pull the peach along. From each creature, he gains massive perspective, and the reader does too. Ears, for example, on an insect's leg may sound ridiculous, but it's no more ridiculous than ears on a head. It's all arbitrary. Ridiculous is relative. Everyone has a purpose, down to the earthworm who tills through the soil. The lessons pile up. I mean, you learn not to judge a book by its cover. In fact, some creatures are massively misunderstood. The spider brings up in conversation that, her job is to catch flies. People hate flies. They're irritated by them. And, this is a good that spiders do in the world, right? They get rid of flies. But at the same time, they think spiders are disgusting. So isn't that a bit of a double-edged sword? Thinking it both ways, like you don't want the flies, but you don't want the spiders. Come on, maybe I'll start looking at spiders a little more differently now. Whew. Okay, I thought I saw a spider. Building this kinship and understanding is what forms this magnetic bond between James and the bugs. As the story progresses, we continue to see James growing as a person. Yeah, he's a young kid, and I don't know what the old James would have done, but for example, when the centipede falls off the peach, James doesn't think. He dives in to save him. That's courage, that's bravery. He's growing. And though there are dark moments, all the while there's this great levity and comedy in this Bugs Life banter. And after this fantastical flight, where do they end up? The Big Apple. More specifically, skewered on top of the Empire State Building. Move over, King Kong. A small boy and a bunch of insects are taking over. Now, when confronted, James stands up for his new friends in sing-song fashion. Again, I can't stand the singing. It's just like reading lyrics just kills me a little bit. I can admit it's more lyrical than maybe like Lord of the Rings, but I will never stop chugging my haterade on songs and books. But it was convincing enough to the New Yorkers to let them down from the spire, and they commenced with a feast of the remaining peach bits. Now, unlike where I thought this would go, maybe James waking up from a dream, his childlike wonder really stands strong and stands pat, and it ends a little differently. It decides to take a stand that this is reality, not imagination. The centipede goes on to become a boot salesman. I mean, he's probably more qualified than most of us. He goes through more shoes than I ever will. The earthworm starts a makeup company. The spider and glowworm start a rope making company. The grasshopper joins the New York Symphony, and the ladybug just marries the head of the fire department, I guess. I like what Dahl does with James's openness to adventure. He's timid to start out, but he's polite, he's respectful, everything that a young boy or girl should be at that age. But to this point, he's lacked freedom. He's been confined, he's been under the iron thumb of his aunts. He finally has a chance at that freedom. And here with that opportunity, he snatches it. One would hope that the lesson carries over to a young reader, or even an older reader like myself. I get it, guys. It's a children's novel, but that doesn't mean there's no talent to be seen. If it makes you think or expand your mind a little or add a little whimsy to your life, it's a small victory. The way that Dahl writes each insect specifically is one of the shining parts of this book. Their personalities vary so greatly, but it's such a fine and delicate balance when they're all together in their banter. Now, from an adulting perspective, he does not show adults in the best light in this book, and I think that's a very poor example for children reading it. There's nothing redeemable at all about any adult character, so it may not be setting the best example for kids, especially if there's authority issues in the home. And also the diabolical attitude towards death and violence leaves a little to be desired. It's kind of over the top. Or maybe I gotta take the kitten mittens off and let kids bite off more than they can chew and see how they deal with it. And I guess there really isn't closure about this orphan boy now having literally 0 human caretakers. Personally, the slapstick comedy, I love that. The completely unfiltered dialogue, I don't know if it's just the times, but it was right up my alley. Oh, so James and the Giant Peach, where are we gonna land with you? Going with a 5.25. Gonna stick on that one, 5.25. Would I recommend it for children? Maybe if they're a little older. This isn't like a kid's book. I'm not reading this in the nursery. It's such a quick and absurd read that even though my rating isn't super high, I would recommend it. It can't hurt to read. But how about you? Have you read James and the Giant Peach? Let me know in the comments below. I know it's not the most riveting read, but I read it recently, and what do I do here? I share my reviews with you guys. My thoughts are coming to the camera. So if you have any thoughts to share, by all means, send them my way. If you enjoyed the review, drop a like, subscribe, and I hope to see you soon. Remember, folks, a chapter a day keeps the brain rot away. Adios.